All right, let's do it. We got him. We got the great Coach Shaka Smart, head coach of Marquette men's basketball, joining us here on WBH Radio. Coach, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Coach, I really appreciate this. I know it is a busy time of year. In fact, let's start there. Coach, what's a day like for you, head coach of Marquette men's basketball? Just like a day when you are not traveling, typical day.
Well, I got a whole morning routine I go through before I even come into work. But when I get here to the office, it's, a lot of time spent around our players, time spent around our staff, just making sure everybody's organized. As a head coach, it's my responsibility to make sure guys are on the same page. And then, most days we have practice. Most days we have individual workouts outside of practice. So that takes up some of the day. Obviously, during the season, some film watching just to prepare for the next opponent and to make sure I watch practice, see anything that I missed, live in practice. Those are the main things I do during the day.
What time do you usually get started, Coach?
What's that?
What time does your day usually start?
Oh, pretty early. But I have a pretty extensive morning routine that I do at home before I even come in, but I get going pretty early.
Coach, you rose to national prominence in 2011 when you led a mid-major to the Final Four. When you reflect on not just that run, but the building of that program, like what's something that stands out to you?
The people. I mean, it always comes back to the people. We had great guys. I know we have a mutual friend, Doc Sander.
Yes, sir.
The coach that preceded me was hired by Doc Sander. His name is Anthony Grant. And he had done an unbelievable job building a culture of competitiveness, of winning, of, guys every day coming to work with an edge. And so, I was fortunate to follow him. The coach that you follow, that has a lot to do with your first couple years because, it takes a while to instill your own culture. And so Anthony Grant deserves a ton of credit for the guys he recruited, but also the culture that he built. That's really the biggest thing that stands out about my early time at VCU was just the people there, the guys that, made the success happen.
Coach, I'm working here in the high school basketball scene. A lot of my guys are getting their career started, building programs. And VCU was your very first stop as a head coach. And I want to ask, long before the fans come out, long before the donors come out, the team starts in an empty gym, building, molding the guys, instilling values. How did you know you were on pace for something special? How do you know that these are the tactics that are going to get us to the promised land?
That's a great question. I think it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing. There's a really good book that I'm reading right now called Manifest. And it's just about, creating the things that you want to happen in your life. And in this case, with a team or with players, helping them, create the things that they want to happen. So if you're not willing to visualize those things and you're not willing to remove the fear and the doubt that gets in the way, then you won't know. You'll never know. I think it takes certainly a leap of faith. But then the other answer is it comes back to the people. And I think if you're around a group of guys on a daily basis and you just get a sense, wow, these guys really care about each other. Wow, these guys really want to do what goes into winning. They really have a competitive character about them. And you can sense that and you can feel that. And then you got a chance to do something special.
As a fan, Coach, when you moved on to your second gig, I thought with those resources, with that high profile of a position, it's going to be Final Four, national championship every other year. How does that compare to what your expectations were walking into that job?
Well, I think having been to the Final Four, you know, you gain a level of humility of how much goes into that that's outside of your control. So I'm not sure that I expected that every other year, but I understand your sentiment. Um, I think for me, it felt like the right time to make a change for several reasons. Um, a lot of times the media makes a big deal out of when coaches make changes, but people in every walk of life, make career changes or change jobs. And for my family, we felt like it was the right time to do that. Um, I think anytime you take a job, and I would include Texas in this, but I would also include VCU in this, and Marquette for that matter, there's so many things that you don't know when you take the job. There's so many unknowns, and there's so many things that are still to be determined, that are up in the air. And I think for me, I probably was pretty naive as a younger coach to certain things that maybe I was getting myself into. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. I learned a lot. It's made me who I am today. The things that we do with our staff and with our team now, those things were all born out of my time at VCU and my time at Texas.
Coach, I was doing some reading about you and something that came up, this culture document. Can you tell me about the inspiration for it and what is it about?
The inspiration was the one losing season that I've ever had as a head coach. My second year at Texas, we had a relatively successful first year, then lost a lot of guys off of our team. And my second year was a very, very hard year. We had a terrific player as a freshman that was our best player, Jared Allen, who plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But he was still figuring things out as a freshman and going through that transition. And then, we had some instability around him, I would say, with the rest of our roster. And our culture was not what it needed to be. And so during that year, I started to make notes and get organized what I wanted, in total, our culture to be. And then when the season got done, I combined everything and I turned it into what I call a culture doc. And then every year since then, I've updated it and adjusted it and amended it, to the current team or the current situation. And so, now we have our 2023-24 version of the culture doc that we use every single day at Marquette.
Coach, I heard it's 26 pages. A lot of these coaches think these kids are not reading today, Coach. How you get them to stay in tune and really check it out and internalize it?
It's a great question. It's a great point. I don't know if there's any player on our team that has read our culture doc from cover to cover. maybe one or two special guys, but that's not really what it's there for. We tend to take maybe short parts of it at different times. Like, for instance, today we're 2 days out from a game. So we may walk into the film room, to start our preparation before practice, and I'll have up on the screen one of the pages from the culture doc. And it might be one of the principles or one of our 3 core values. And then, we'll just talk about maybe even just a couple lines on that page. And so it's not really meant to, have people read it from cover to cover. If they're super interested in us, then maybe they will. I always send it to parents and kids in recruiting, just as an introduction of what we're about and who we are. Because if they even skim through it and don't really resonate with that stuff, well, then they shouldn't come here. They wouldn't be a good fit.
Coach, you mentioned your core values, the 3 core values: relationships, growth, and victory. I found this very interesting. One would assume core values would be get buckets or something. Your first word is relationships, Coach. Why is that important in college basketball?
I think it's important on any team, because you got a group of guys working together to do something that none of us individually could do. And so it's one of those things where if we care about each other, if we love each other, if we pull for each other during the game, if we play and go the extra mile for each other during the game and in practice, we're going to be better than teams that don't do that. And so everything starts with relationships. It makes it more fun. It makes it more fulfilling. From the coaching side of things, the whole reason I coach, or a large part of why I coach, is because of what my coaches did for me as the son of a single mom who didn't have a positive dad in my life. And so, we've got guys that come from single moms. We've got guys that come from phenomenal two-parent homes. But the relationships with the players and then their relationships with each other is something that is second to none.
Last year, Coach, I looked up and saw the Big East Player of the Year was Tyler Kolek. And he wasn't even on the preseason list. Like, he just came out of nowhere and took the conference by storm. You guys won the regular season championship and the tournament championship. And I was even more surprised to learn that he was returning to college basketball. So, Coach, when you have the Big East Player of the Year going into his senior year, what are some of the conversations you had with him, I guess, as far as going to the next level and what you're looking for from him in his senior campaign?
It's ongoing. It's a daily conversation. So it's not really a thing of the past or a thing of the future. It just we're constantly in dialogue about what our team needs, what he needs, what I see that maybe can help him. First of all, he's got a phenomenal work ethic. He's always working. He's never satisfied, driven, wants to be the best he possibly can be. And then he's all about winning. He wants to win. He cares about his teammates. He cares about all the little things that go into winning, which is a big separator for him. You mentioned conversations about the next level. I mean, like any other player, he would love to play in the NBA. And so, we talked in the offseason just about where he was at relative to that. He wanted to come back to school. He wanted to get better in certain areas, which he has and continues to. But absolutely, he has that aspiration, and I think he will play in the NBA for a long time.
Coach, did you see his press conference after the Texas game? He told a story about you were telling the guys, hey, it's just another game. And he said, Coach, that's BS. We know this one means a lot to you. And they went out and won it for you.
I did see that. Somebody sent that to me. I don't normally watch that kind of stuff, but I appreciate, whenever you have players that care about you as a coach, I appreciate that because I've learned over the years that's not a given.
Yeah. Coach, I want to throw a few things at you. If you could just tell me the first word that comes to mind. NIL.
Good.
And how about transfer portal?
Stay out of it.
Yeah? Why is that, sir?
I believe in prioritizing our young players over bringing in transfers.
Fair enough. Because I know a lot of the high school coaches are telling the youngsters, like, hey, these D1 coaches are not even looking at you high schoolers now. They are going in the transfer portal.
That doesn't apply to us. So you can tell those high school coaches, if they've got promising young guys that want to run through a wall for their teammates, send them our way.
Marquette's the place. Got it, Coach. Coach, I run an event here in New York City called the My City Alumni Classic, where we celebrate some former college basketball players that played here in the city. We're all D3 level. Coach, you played D3 basketball. Salute to you. What is your approach to connecting with your alumni, who are some of the greatest basketball players to ever play?
Well, I think it's different with different alums. As you know, when you're at different ages or different points in your journey, you may be more or less interested in reconnecting with your alma mater. Dwayne Wade, for example, in the last couple years, I think he's gotten to a point in his life where it was really, really important for him to reconnect with some former teammates at Marquette, with Marquette as a university, the leadership here, and fortunately with our basketball program. So it's really easy to communicate with him because he's really into it. We went to Hawaii a few weeks ago for Maui Invitational, and he came with us. He was there. He was in the locker room with the guys. We went on a boat ride. He went with us. He was mentoring a lot of the guys. He's been here on campus a handful of times in the last year, just being around, coming to games, doing different events on campus. He's huge on childhood literacy, and he and his sister have a program on our campus. And so very, very easy to connect with guys like him because he wants to be connected. I think it's different with different guys. We try to open up practice. We try to open up our program. We want guys to come back. We've had pretty good success with alums coming back and being involved and wanting to be around the team. One thing that we do that we really enjoy is every year we honor a different great Marquette team.
Wow.
And so last year it was actually Dwayne Wade's Final Four team. It was 20 years since they went to the Final Four in 2003. And then this year we'll be honoring later on in the season the 1974 Final Four team from Marquette, which, a lot of those guys actually live in this area. And so we'll be able to get the majority of those guys back for a big game and honor them, and our fans will love it.
Very cool. Very cool. Coach, what's your approach to setting goals? Like when the guys walk in August, is it just your national championship or bust? Like, how would you describe your approach to setting goals and managing expectations?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between goals and expectations. I prefer to focus on expectations because, one may or may not understand and be willing to do the things that go into their goals. But whatever you expect to happen in life, your habits and your behavior, your decisions, everything you do has to align with those expectations. Same thing with goals. But one of the things that we do in the off season is we have our guys write out, what are your expectations for the upcoming season? That's as a team and that's individually. And a lot of our guys did put some really lofty things in terms of what they expect to occur. Okay, if that's what you expect to occur, then you've got to be willing to do literally everything that goes into accomplishing that expectation. And you've got to be willing to expect the same of your teammates and your coaches. You mentioned national championship. That certainly would be an outcome that we would love to occur. But honestly, our focus more than outcomes has to be on our process, the things under our control, what goes into winning, what goes into preparing championship level habits. Because as we tell our guys on a daily basis, first we make our habits and then our habits make us. So you don't all of a sudden become champions out of the blue. You've got to create championship level habits first.
That was great. That was great, Coach. Thank you. A few more things, Coach, and I'm going to get you out of here. I heard you on a podcast recently. I think it's the Rising Coaches podcast. You said something really profound. You said there is coaching your team, and then there's also coaching the individual player. And I was like, wow, that is exactly what takes place. Can you talk to me about perhaps the difference and what it takes to manage it? How do you go about managing it throughout a season?
Yeah, that's really been an evolution for me, as I would say it probably is for most guys when they become head coaches. I think when people think about coaching, they probably think about X's and O's. practice, games, strategy. Are you a zone coach? Are you a man-to-man press? You run motion offense, pick and roll. These are all team things. Now, there's obviously individual components within each of those things. And as I tell our guys all the time, whatever we ask of the team, we're also asking of individuals. And the team is not going to be able to do what we're talking about doing if the individuals don't do those things. But I think as I've gotten older, what I've learned is coaching the player in a lot of ways is just as important, if not more important, than coaching the team. And there sometimes can be a resistance in us as coaches that, hey, we just want to go coach our team. Yes. We just want to go be a ball coach. But the reality is spending time with, building relationships with, helping guys get through different things, different challenges they're dealing with, helping guys be right mentally. That stuff is really the secret sauce to being your best as a team.
Excellent, Coach. You're absolutely right. It's not just X's and O's. This is a people business. And I was reading something interesting about you. 9 of your former assistants are now working as Division I head basketball coaches. What do you think when I say that to you, Coach?
It makes me happy. It's anytime you go through something together that's really hard, which winning is hard. College basketball seasons are hard. Certainly making the NCAA tournament or winning a conference tournament or whatever it may be, those things are hard. So when you go through that stuff, you have a bond and you have a shared experience and shared understanding. So seeing those guys get head coaching jobs it's a lot of fun. And then even more fun is, watching their games, whether it's, on a live stream or on TV. I wish I had time during the season. I was actually telling another coach this the other day to, once a month or so, just take an evening and go watch, whether it's a former assistant or a friend of mine, coach his team and just watch as a fan and learn from being, right behind the bench. But that's just not how it works. We're in the middle of our season too. So literally every second of the day, I'm locked in on, us being our best.
Now, Coach, was that a conscious effort from you to, hey, I am going to help these men get to the next level? Like, is that something you were working at day in and day out going through your seasons?
Well, the way that I go about managing our staff, leading our staff, certainly I'm challenging these guys to think differently. Mm-hmm. Because I remember when I was an assistant coach, and the reality is there's a set of duties and responsibilities and even mindsets that you might have as an assistant coach. And then there's a set of those same things that you need to have as a head coach. And there's some overlap, but there's also some difference. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I think part of my job is to prepare these guys and get them to think a little bit differently. I've always been hard on assistants. Mm-hmm. I think most of them would agree with that, but at the same time, hopefully most of them would feel like, I had their best interest in mind. I wanted them to reach their goals. I've given them a lot of responsibilities. I know there's some head coaches out there that they really don't let their assistant coaches do much other than maybe recruit and spend time with guys individually. Mm-hmm. If you came to our practice, which, by the way, our practices are open to, any coaches, you would see our assistant coaches running drills. You would see our assistant coaches having an active voice. And if you were a potential, athletic director looking to hire an assistant coach, you'd look at those guys and you say, wow, this guy, he could be a head coach.
Cool. Coach, at Marquette, you guys have that Jordan sponsorship. I've been checking out your footwear. Do you have a favorite pair of Jordans?
I'm not really a shoe guy, and I only had one pair of Jordans my entire life up until I got this job. But when I say the Jordan brand, they take care of us,
Yeah.
that is an understatement. I mean, we get so many shoes. I'm a size 10. I'm constantly having to find people that are size 10 to give my shoes away to because there's no way I can wear them all. But I enjoy now, wearing different pairs, different shoes, and just the kind of banter back and forth with people that are shoe people. And so I got a lot of different pairs that I'll wear.
I seen you in those Jordan 3s a few times. Those look good. Um, Coach, when you think about your career, what would you say is your greatest strength as a coach, and what's the area you needed most, I guess, help with during your time?
That's a great question. I would say my greatest strength is probably just enthusiasm.
Mm.
I have a lot of energy for the things that we do every day. And so our guys are going to get from me on a daily basis a level of passion, enthusiasm, joy, gratitude.
Mhm.
I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity to be around them every day, the opportunity to be at a place like Marquette. We had over 17,000 people at our game the other day against Notre Dame. So, for me, a guy that played Division III basketball, to get a chance to be in this type of setting every day, far be it from me to have anything but enthusiasm and joy and gratitude. So that's probably my biggest strength. And then, a couple areas that I was definitely ill prepared for when I became a head coach. One, delegating. I was I just didn't have a lot of experience with it. And as a head coach, you've got to do, a lot of that. Two, this is obviously related, managing your staff, and I would say managing people in general. There's a difference between leading and managing. I think some people are maybe pretty natural with leadership, but that doesn't mean that they're natural with management.
Okay.
And that's something that, for a long time, I've had to evolve in. And I'll tell you, one thing that's really helped me is for the last 4 seasons, this one included, I've had a coach's coach. So
Okay.
I've had someone that, he works with different coaches and CEOs and, people that lead organizations. And I Zoom with him once every 2 weeks. And it's very, very helpful for me from a management side.
Coach, that's pretty amazing for you to welcome in. You're the CEO of one of the best basketball programs in the country, and for you to welcome someone in to help assist you, that's pretty
It's been,
impressive.
it's been life changing for me. I wish I would have done it long ago. What's fascinating is I've recommended to anyone that'll listen that's a head coach to do the same. But I think what happens is a lot of times we're typically like so busy, or we feel like we are,
Yes, sir.
with the day-to-day components of our job, whether it's recruiting, whether it's, preparing for the next game, whether it's, different challenges internally within your program. But I'm telling you, for any coaches out there, even high school coaches, if you're willing to take an hour every couple weeks and talk to someone
Mhm.
that, has experienced either coaching people that have been in that chair or have been in that chair themselves, and just kind of getting organized
Yeah.
on what you're going to do from a management standpoint with your people, it will pay major dividends.
Mhm. And coach, you brought up another great point: being able to delegate, because ultimately, it's your name on the door. You're responsible for it all. So it's hard. I know a lot of my coaches. It's hard for them to give a task to somebody else and let them go work. It's very hard. But
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think sometimes we overemphasize, or um, we think that we are a lot better
Mhm.
at, fill in the blank than those of us on our staff. But the reality is, I can make a long list of things that the people that work in our program can do as well or better than me. And I emphasize sometimes better than me. And so anything that falls under that list, I should be delegating to them.
Right.
I need to be focusing on the things that only I can do or only the person sitting in the head coach's chair can do. And so if I can delegate some of those other things, then we're going to be a more effective organization.
Coach, you mentioned Doc Sander, who was my professor at ETSU, where I did my doctoral research, and I wrote on a topic called the Stockdale Paradox, which is inspired by Vietnam veteran, the ability to be confident, yet.
No, that's the Harriet Paradox. I renamed that after Harriet Tubman.
Okay.
Because Admiral Stockdale was forced to be a prisoner of war.
Right.
Harriet Tubman, 100 times decided
Yes, sir.
to cross that line and risk her life and go help people escape to freedom. But you're exactly right, whether it's Admiral Stockdale or whether it's Harriet Tubman, having the willingness to confront the brutal facts of reality and also the faith and the belief that absolutely we are going to accomplish our goals and we're going to do what we're setting out to do. Those things, holding both of those things at once, very, very important. But if you see, I'll actually show you, if you came to our office, you see a bunch of pictures of her.
Wow.
And that's because, she is maybe my biggest hero because, man, if she can do those things in the circumstances she was under, man, we're basketball coaches. We sure as heck can as well.
Coach, you just made my day. A few things. First of all, my doctoral research, I just self-published a book about that paradox that we're going to rename to Harriet Tubman. But being able to confront the brutal facts, yet there being humility. Like, I see that from you, Coach, a fierce competitiveness, but also like this humble spirit, that dichotomy. That was amazing. So again, I have my book. I'm gonna mail you a copy, Coach.
Man, congratulations. I'm looking forward to seeing that because it's a fascinating topic, and not a lot of people have written a book about it. So I'm looking forward to seeing it.
That's pretty cool. And when you come to New York, Coach, I'm gonna come check you guys out at St. John's. Hopefully, I can come see a practice if you let me.
You're welcome to.
Thank you so very much. But Coach, all jokes aside, you are one of my favorite coaches in the country, if not my favorite, because of your work throughout the years. Not just what you've accomplished on the court, but watching you in press conferences, watching you exude leadership. It's just very impressive, and I can't believe that you took the time to join me here on my humble little show. I just want to say thank you, Coach.
You got it. Thanks for having me, and keep up the good work.
All right, Coach. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Right,
have a great one.
Thank you, brother. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that was WBH Radio. We had the great Shaka Smart, head coach, Marquette basketball. We out. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is William Holly, host of WBH Radio, and I want to tell you about my new book. It's called Confront the Brutal Facts, Stockdale Paradox in Sports. It is about a common mentality consistent among some of the greatest athletes and leaders in sports. It is inspired by a Vietnam veteran. I think it is a fun read for all of my young athletes, coaches, any leader aspiring to be the best they can be. On sale now. Check it out.